watching CIO TV by Enterprise IT World, a production of Accent Infomedia.
Welcome to CIO TV. We are very pleased to have with us today Mr. Ravinder Singh. He's a CIO of Vistara. Mr. Singh, thank you so much for speaking with us at Enterprise IT World. So we wanted to understand from you, how is Vistara differentiating itself from other airlines using new age technologies?
Vistara had always this advantage of starting from scratch. Okay, so I can't say about other airlines and what is their tech strategy, but Vistara technology was always a central to Vistara's strategy, both in terms of setting up an airline and scaling it up. Okay, so it is basically, DNA of every decision which we take. Everything is decided based upon, hey, can we tech it? Can we automate it? Can we digitize that? So in that way, it is an inherent part of Vistara's DNA. Also, if you look at the core value system of Vistara, Vistara is one of those proud, and brave airline where innovation is their core value. Okay, so when you combine innovation and technology both, it comes up as a very, very young and vibrant, airline. So somehow it is just part of Vistara. We don't think, that we have to do it in a tech way or something like that. It's just the inherent DNA of Vistara, which is very, very tech.
But there are a lot of challenges still in the aviation sector. Sometimes you don't get information on time if a flight being delayed. Sometimes you're stranded at the airport for a long time. There are a lot of challenges that exist in the aviation sector. Can technology help overcome some of these challenges?
Look, aviation is a broad domain, and airline within aviation is not an easy business. It is not easy business from purely from a business aspect, but also from an operational perspective. I have worked in multiple domains, but it is in airline I actually find the real value of discipline, the real value of being attentive, the real value of being proactive, the real value of being reactive. So if you actually look at the whole landscape of a particular airline ecosystem, you cannot predict a disaster per se, right? It's very, very difficult to predict a disaster, and it's one of the safest domain. If you look at aviation domain, it is one of the safest domain, both transportation wise versus, a lot of people forget, and if you actually do a domain to domain comparison, if you actually do a comparison of aviation domain to let's say financial services, you will see remarkable, differentiation when it comes to aviation in terms of standards of safety, environmental standards, standards of communication, protocols, technical protocols which are used. How do we, enable that? We enable that through different modes. Internet is one of the, enablers. Middleware, cloud, simple SMSs, mobile, web on internet. We try to capture all these channels. Disaster recovery, since Vistara is one of the earlier movers to cloud per se, our whole architecture is built on cloud architecture. How we manage our disasters from purely from an information technology perspective is really futuristic. How many times have you actually heard that that Vistara's e-commerce site has gone down or something like that? And really, you see that, where it's pretty common phenomena, whether you are an aggregator or whether you are another airline, and that is a subtle differentiation which happens. So our architecture is a very modern architecture, and we are building blocks over it. Okay, now will you see in future, different, social networking channels and how Vistara associates the messaging on those particular channels? Maybe not. We are evaluating, we are discovering them. But our fault tolerance in terms of disaster is as good or even better than most airlines.
Since you're already an early mover when it comes to robotics, what has been your experience and what is the feedback that you got from customers?
So let's understand, because robots are of multiple types. Okay, there are robots which were part of our life, but we never knew it, or we never wanted to understand it. For example, the car which you use, it's fundamentally built through automated robotics, okay, which I call as robotics, which are in the industrial zone. Okay, they basically pick objects and they will put it over there and they will assemble it through a pre-calibrated precision, right? So that is one field which is very mature. And then there is a very, very expensive part of robotics which is used in which I call as precision robotics, which is used in space, which is used in mining, which is used in discovering, various commodity across the Mother Earth. And there's a third part of robotics which nobody wants to talk about, and people usually, confuse that with humanoids, okay, which I call as commodity robotics. So in that sphere, I think Vistara globally has taken a huge leap. Hence, the definition of robot is something which will enable humans to perform their tasks much more better. So focus on the task where you are. Now coming to the success of robots and commodity robots per se. So let's understand what are the main ingredients of this particular robot. So fundamentally, if you actually look at a commodity robot, it is built out of parts which you use. For example, it has got cameras which are weaker or similar to cameras which you use on your phone. If you actually look at the software which is written, it's basically the cognitive software or the reactive software, which you can find in open source, or any Java developer can write it. So the idea over here is to use commodity technology which are easily available, which are cheap, which are economical, but which are extremely robust, and build something which has got a compelling use case and multiple use cases. That's one. And if you actually divide the interactivity part of robotics, and that's where the artificial intelligence plays a role, along with natural language processing. Now, India has got multiple languages. Okay. Now, how do you translate the response to that particular language? Time will tell. Okay. But if you take English per se as a language, that translation has been quite successful. Okay. So first step is, if I'm speaking something to a machine, let's call that machine should be able to create tokens out of that particular sentence, should be able to break this particular sentence and convert that into instructions which makes sense. Now, if you take those instructions and break it into two parts, one instructions are which I call as very transactional, very airline-like instructions. Hey, where is my flight? Can you print my boarding card? Which is my gate? Has my gate changed? Which is my destination? How is the weather in my destination? And things like that. Accuracy is a very high 90%. Okay, you will get accurate results. You will get accurate answers. Sometimes you will get way more accurate answer than you can get it from airport delivery systems. On the other hand, which is a cognitive part, okay, which is quite exciting, because it takes you to the deep learning part of artificial intelligence. There, the accuracy, how we have written, will evolve. So let me just, so a lot of people use Amazon or Apple, right? So you have Siri and you have Alexa. Now, if you interact with Alexa, you say, Alexa, do this. Alexa, do this too. Alexa, do this. So you use what Alexa instruction. Now, the way we have written cognitive code is basically cameras recognize you and they take your image in that particular session, so you don't have to. So that's the first breakthrough. That means when you are talking to a robot, or when you're talking to a robot named Rada, you don't have to say that, oh, by the way, Rada, do this, Rada, tell me this, Rada. So that's the first improvement. Transactional, as I have said, capabilities in terms of asking airline-specific questions, bang on. But if you get into a zone, which is a learning zone or a cognitive zone, for example, if you ask Rada, how are you? You will get a strange answer. But it actually goes into a decision tree which we have built, and it's kind of a child brain, okay? So consider Rada as a child with no parents, right? So it's the software which teaches Rada, hey, by the way, if somebody asks this question again, these are the habits which you need to pick up. And sometimes when you basically ask Rada, hey, how are you feeling? Are you sad? How was your day? Do you want to marry me? Or, how many kids do you have? You will get an answer which is a very strange answer. So accuracy of that particular answer will be in the range of 32 to 33% as per our tests. But at least that machine is giving you an answer, which itself, as an engineer, is a huge breakthrough to me. So there are two kinds of accuracies. One is a cognitive one, which is evolving. Another is a machine one, which is a robotics, very monolithic robotics way, which is a very, very high accuracy.
But are customers ready for it? How have they reacted to the robot?
First of all is excitement. Okay, you know, it's a huge hit with kids. One of the reasons it is huge hit was because they humbled me. They were my testers, so everything which I thought is running fine, and they will come and they will totally destroy that, and they will say it's not working. In fact, the height of the robot was changed because these kids will interact and they will ask questions and they will make up sentences, and those sentences somehow will not work in the algorithm. So quite excited with the kids part. I also think kids are far more literate than adults when it comes to computation, because they are born with mobile phones at least, so they know how to operate mobile phones more than adults do. So that makes me extremely confident in terms of spending more time and energy in terms of building next versions of robot. So that is. When it comes to normal passengers, most of them have used it either like a kiosk. Okay, so they find it convenient because if there is a last minute gate change, they can actually go there, and they feel far more comfortable if a machine replies to them rather than somebody taking a phone and basically saying, hey, what is the gate and all this stuff. So I think that part has quite well. Mother with kids, they find it quite peaceful, especially when they are in lounge. So kids can play with robot. They find it very safe. They can, there are games over there. There's media which they can use and all those stuff. They find it quite exciting. There is a certain crowd which I have seen, who are far more curious that how this robot was built, and that is also quite exciting because they look this particular robot as an educational thing, and that's what is happening. Sometimes I find people who are curiously just browsing through robot and asking them, but realistically they are way fewer, because airport is a kind of phenomena where people just want to do their work and they just want to get off. Yeah.
Given your past experience in robotics, how does this help you when you are exploring rollout of newer technologies?
Look, learnings is a very different thing. So what do you learn? You basically become far more humble because of certain use cases which you thought have not worked. You understand a little bit more deeper from the tech part. For me, it's a different sort of an experience because I'm an engineer first, then a CIO. In terms of how much risk you should take. What are the use cases which you should take and deliver. Because all said and done, you don't have unlimited capital to utilize for this thing. So success and a success within a time is a pretty good thing. Now, from purely from a tech perspective, what is the learning? Well, you always know, because look, in a professional company, you don't say that, hey, by the way, I'm going to create and then I'm going to learn and then I will tell you what is going to next. You fundamentally have a roadmap in your head, and if you have a roadmap, then you can get some sort of sponsorship out of your own colleagues or who are going to be your possible user base. So robotics has got a proper roadmap. You have mentioned about artificial intelligence. We use artificial intelligence. We are bullish about this. We have already started working on it. We have a compelling case in terms of safety. We have a compelling case in terms of route profitability. There are many other use cases where we are using AI, and we will be using AI much more deeply. Now, with respect to AI, machine learning is something where we have seen huge success. That aspect of AI is a huge success. Deep learning, as I have said, in terms of predictability, in terms of getting into a zone where machine is basically telling you what is the right way, what is the right station, what is the right route and all that stuff. I think we are not yet there. I think accuracy is still, but currently we are bullish on robotics and artificial intelligence.
Does technology or an edge in technology help you grab more customers in a very competitive airline industry?
We like to know more about customers. We like to give them much more personalized experience. We would like to help our customers more, service them better. But ultimately, I don't think tech will ever reach that arrogance in Vistara where we'll say that because of tech it is happening. Vistara has got brilliant colleagues. It is the crew inside the aircraft, okay, which gets us repetitive customers, which actually is a differentiator. It is that customer experience what you get when you actually meet a customer service representative. It is basically the digital marketing team which manages the e-commerce part of Vistara. They are the real differentiator. It is, tech is just an enabler over there. I hope, even, after my tenure, no technologist lays a claim with that kind of arrogance that because of tech we are getting customers. No, we will never lay a claim to that.
You said that you have been using artificial intelligence, but newer technologies like blockchain and IoT, do you see a good use case in the airline industry? Are you considering using any of these?
So blockchain and IoT, as a technologist, I have my personal opinion. The use cases and its validity for an airline is a different question altogether. Its validity for an airline within India is altogether a different ball game. And this is my hypothesis. If you actually look at IoT per se, and if you actually look at aircraft per se, aircraft is actually a classical case of an IoT. Parts talk to each other. Most of the avionics is getting into a computer science zone. Aircrafts like 787 or even Boeing 787 or Airbus 320. Airbus 320 uses FOMAX and all these kind of technologies. 787 are enabled aircrafts. When you talk about enabled aircrafts, they're IoT. They are basically the most mature form of an IoT. Okay. I think most people, when they talk about IoT and they associate IoT with an airline, is basically how the whole ecosystem of an airline interacts within an airport, right? Now, how many airports are there which have got beacons, okay? And how many of them have a stable network of beacons? That's a question mark on airports, right? So IoT, not very bullish with the current, for short term, I'm not that bullish. I think most airlines within India should be careful what they want to do with IoT. There is a huge difference between the engineering and the technology, how it is applied in the most beautiful aspect of an airline, which is aircraft, versus the whole infrastructure and ecosystem of airports. Okay, so hence very, very conservative view, short-term view of. Otherwise, IoT, it's a great stack. It is improving a lot. It's maturing in most an automobile industry in a commodity zone. It's using it quite well. Blockchain, again a different ball game altogether. I personally see, and this is sheer personally, I personally see a single biggest case of blockchain in any kind of a service industry is loyalty. Loyalty can become a good blockchain. But again, for a blockchain, you need to have a very, very good governance and a very, very robust ecosystem. Nobody can just say that, hey, I'm doing a blockchain because I'm a single company. There's very less use cases and very less use cases for the return of investment you are going to get if you are going. It is always with multiple partners. It's always with transactions which have a very, very complex flow. It is also with the integrity of information. It is also with the value of that integrity of information. If it is expensive, it makes a lot of sense. Look, all said and done, blockchain platforms are computationally very, very heavy. Okay, since they are very, very heavy, they require tremendous amount of power, electricity, and water. When I say water, it's to cool the servers and the cloud. So if you, in terms of use case, I see an immediate use case, and that's purely on a personal front. Are we looking at blockchain seriously? Of course we are looking at blockchain. Are we working on blockchain? Not now. Our focus is purely on AI and robotics.
Have newer technologies actually helped improve passenger safety?
Well, no. Answer is no. Look, if you look at passenger, aircraft, airport security, there are very good processes there, very, very good regulations over there, and you have to follow those regulations. And if you actually look at those regulations, they are highly manual in nature today. They are highly signature oriented, and there is a reason behind it. So I will never lay even a claim on that. What we try to do is to help. For example, actually talking to one of the passengers, and they basically said, hey, I love to travel on Vistara because my parents are old and it is very easy to find a wheelchair for them when I'm traveling on Vistara. I will not associate that part of safety with the safety which you're talking about as an airline. So I will not layer. Other thing also we need to understand that aircraft per se as a machine is a very, very good engineering. It's one of the safest machines built, and I can say that with some authority, being an engineer as well as a pilot. That it's a very safe machine. So information technology's role in terms of safety, from a traditional aspect or a classical sense of IT, is extremely limited. It's the machine itself, it's the people who are involved, it's a regulatory agency, it's the airport ecosystem, which plays a far bigger role in the overall safety.
Let's talk about data privacy, because recently we had the case where we saw British airline being hacked, and data of their passengers was opened and revealed to people. We don't know if it was misused or not. But when it comes to data privacy, what are you doing, and does being on a cloud make you more vulnerable?
And British Airways is not on cloud. So look, data privacy is entirely a different aspect than cloud. Cloud is a choice in a very simple way of a server. Do you want that server on your own? You want to run that server? You want to put that server on real estate which you own or co-own or leased? It has got very less to do with data privacy per se. Data privacy is governance. Data privacy, if you talk about European Union with GDPR and everything, it's about the law, it's about the regulation, it's also about the ethos. So if the question is that do we have checks and balances to protect customer information? Answer is yes. Okay. Does cloud directly helps it? Answer is no. Cloud is just an architecture. It is ultimately what you build on cloud, how you ensure that your InfoSec processes and procedures are in place. How do you ensure that you protect each and every row in your data warehouse or in your data lake or on your server, how that data integrity is protected. It is how you ensure that the employees who have got right to admin that particular information, they are educated, they are disciplined, their ethics are of highest order. I think that plays a far better or a major role.
So can you tell us what are the measures you're taking to keep your passengers' data safe?
So all kinds of steps. In fact, we have InfoSec policies in place, we have procedures in place. We do a vulnerability analysis. Our VA is basically highly automated. We take cyber threat very seriously. We have our own mechanisms which are multiple layers, right from firewalls to the vulnerability analysis, which is the perimeter security. This thing we are careful, we are cautious about. We also know there are smarter people, around us. So there are checks and balances in terms of regular manual audits also, which we do. So it doesn't really matter whether we are on cloud or something. If your question is that do I have a control on my server farm, I think I have more control than what you do in data center, because my agreements are very strong. My architecture is an architecture which is being developed by Vistara. My security architecture is my security architecture. My auditors are independent auditors. My whole governance system is of highest order. So from that aspect, nothing to do with cloud.
What's the advice that you would like to give to CIOs who are looking to roll out newer technologies in their companies?
Look, first of all, I'm not a classical CIO, okay? So I'm actually not a classical CIO. Hence, whatever I say has to be taken with a lot of caution. And here is the reason behind it. As I have done my first disclosure, I'm a hands-on person, right? I still write code, okay? I build things with my own hands, even in case of robot, fabrication and everything, I was very, very closely hands-on involved. The beauty of that is that you predict technology which is going to be successful. So you don't wait till, let's say, maturity of a particular technology. So you buy and you make a very, very good bet, and most bets are successful bet. And you buy technology at a stage when it's extremely cheap, and then you write long-term contracts so that you get a benefit once it matures, right? If any CIO or any CTO is able to do that, I think they are doing a great service to their respective organization or their entrepreneurs, to their own companies. So, but it should be done if you understand that. If you don't understand that, then I don't think there is any harm being a follower, but you have to be a quick follower. You cannot think and rethink again and again in terms of a legacy infrastructure, and especially in infrastructure. Because what happens that it gets delayed to a certain extent that to even manage the continuity of that particular legacy becomes very expensive. Okay, and there are so many examples, across the domain. So that would be, I don't think I'm going to give an advice. I think that would be one other thinking point which anyone, whether they are CIO or whether they are CFO who are responsible for buying IT, they should think. So first thing is, if you understand technology, and if you yourself are an expert, then you buy a technology during an early stage, and then you basically build use cases and build over it. That would be extremely, extremely good service to your own organization. In fact, quite profitable choice of strategy. And the second thing is that don't wait too long. If you wait too long, then your stack becomes legacy. And let me tell you, to manage a legacy stack is first of all, it's a nightmare to find people who can manage it. And second thing, it's very, very expensive. It becomes too expensive.
In the future, in the next couple of years, what are the projects that you want to roll out, or the new technologies you want to adopt at Vistara?
As I said, we have made a bet on artificial intelligence, especially the machine learning part of AI. We are betting on that. We have made a bet on robotics. We are quite bullish that robotics will bring new freshness, if not disruption, in a good way. These are the two areas we are closely watching, as you have rightly said, blockchain. We are closely watching a marriage of blockchain and AI. We are closely watching that because humongous data. Other things which other companies may think as a future technology is, we were built on that. For example, some companies still talk about cloud as a future technology. According to me, cloud is a legacy technology to me. So we were born in cloud, right? Data lake, we don't use data warehouse. It's a legacy concept. So we have our own data lakes, right? We use structured and unstructured data both. So since we are a new gen startup airline, in that case, our view of future is a very, very different one. So big data, we already use that. Data lake, we already use it. AI, we are already using it. Deep learning, we are on the serious experimental side of deep learning. We are bullish about that. NLP, it's part of robotics. We don't consider NLP to be a different aspect of robotics. Robotics, we fundamentally think that will act as a differentiator, and hopefully we would be the leading players in terms of basically telling our story and sharing that with other airlines. Whole ecosystem is a different ball game. How airport security system will involve, which you whether it would be Aadhaar based or whether it would be face recognition based and all those stuff. Airlines don't play much role over there. It's basically the whole ecosystem. How beacons which are there, how beacons are going to impact the customer experience within and from the airport gate. Or airport entrance to airport, gate to a lounge to a retail or something like that. Time will tell. I'm quite excited about Beacon as a technology also. But remember, Beacon has a lot of infrastructure constraints on that.
One last question: how do you view social media, and do you have a social media strategy in place where you can use the data available there for data analytics, for better decisions or pricing or other efficiencies at Vistara?
Look, Now, I'll give you some hints, but I will not categorize that because this may be our differentiator. There are a couple of ways to look at social media. One is you look at it in a reactive way. Okay, that is how quickly I respond. Okay, I don't consider myself as a master or a guru in that. I understand social media as an enormous information base. And if you look at enormous information base, which is very, very liquid in nature, that means, you respond, otherwise that data is kind of lost, right? If you look at Twitter or anything like that, there's a longevity of that particular data or a residual data is very limited. I think, and hopefully everyone will get benefit of that. Almost everyone looks at social media in terms of what their customers are telling about them. Okay, that's the core of their strategy. Social media should not be looked at a particular handle. Okay, now if you look social media as an ocean, as an internet, and then if you try, I'm just giving it that, I'm not saying that we are going to do it or we are doing it. I'm just saying that if you actually look social media as an ocean, and in that ocean you try to find out which portion of social media or who are the participants in that social media who are part of an ecosystem of your competitor, and how many of them are not happy with them, and you can pull them through a certain algorithm, I think that would be something remarkable thing to do. I think that would be something where you can say that, look, we have written an algorithm or we have a social media strategy which is very compelling, which is actually helping us to create a competitive advantage. Otherwise, mostly we see social media, at least I see as social media, in fact purely I see as a social media, is a very, very reactive way. Most reactions are related to your customer affinity and what kind of customer experience you want to give or what kind of brand you want to build, but reactive in nature. I am much more interested in the proactiveness, which actually you play the game in social media, and you kind of if your algorithm is that power, you actually take customers from your competitor to this thing. So just think about it. There are multiple handles, and if you take traffic of one handle to your handle, and that traffic converts into actual revenues, that would be something remarkable. And that's my view on social media. It's a very, very inside out view.
Mr. Singh, thank you so much for speaking with us at Enterprise IT World.
Thank you.